So the last part I want to say is the big question, which are these rooms worth it? Is anybody sort of thinking that? Is everything worth it? All the money that we're spending worth it? I'm going to talk about three specific studies before we get to the end here. 2 of them were done by people here in Minnesota. So I think that's something to point out, that you guys actually have done an enormous amount of research, and it probably should be J.D. Walker and Christina and a number of the others standing up here telling you, here's all the research that we've done on how successful these spaces can be. And here are some of the examples. So this is Chris Brooks, who was here for many years, looked at the impact of formal learning spaces on student learning. And again, all factors except the space is constant. Students taking the courses in these spaces outperform their peers when taking the same courses in other traditional settings. So again, evidence that it absolutely can make a difference for learning. Again, Paul Bepperl and J.D. Walker did another study about flipping and showed that you can actually do some really interesting things where you can reduce the face-to-face time and still get the same kind of outcomes if you're doing a lot of that active learning in these kind of supportive active learning environments. And the last one I want to point to is just recently in 2014, talks about active learning classrooms in a 2-year study and looked at student performance and found that the ALCs generated much more enjoyment, better engagement, amplified interaction, group activity effectiveness, and really got people to be more creative. And all of those things were connected to student learning. So it's very difficult to sort of say this room increases learning, because there's a lot of conditions that go along with that. It can increase learning, but there definitely is a lot of evidence that it can. And so, you know, we did a whole bunch of interviews and focus groups on our end. We looked at people changing from one room to another, and did a whole bunch of documentation and research studies around that. And other evidence of impact that's out there is that, you know, students rate experiences much more positive in active learning classrooms than any other kinds of classrooms. The outcomes are better on expected outcomes that you want to have in your courses, as well as peers outperforming each other, especially at the lower ends. So students that are at risk tend to do better, et cetera. And also that instructors are doing less lecturing, you know, which is a really good thing, and doing more interaction, which is what we want to have and what we want to support.